What would you change in your life if you had an opportunity to change anything?
I don't think I would change anything. I've had a lot of good, I've had some bad, but I'm a firm believer that I'm where I'm at in this life because of where I've been and the things that I've done, the people that I've known, the experiences that I've had, good, bad, and indifferent.
Hi, my name is Jim Ellis, and you're watching Industry Insights, where we bring in industry experts to share their knowledge and experience to the next generation of filmmakers. We're here at the Film Hub, which is a co-working space and soundstage studio, and we're in the beautiful film-friendly city of Vista, California. There's only a few times in life where someone will come around with their talent and time and selflessly help you accomplish a goal. And for me, that's been Woody. So I'm really glad to have him here today to share some of his stories that he's lived through, and I believe that it'll really help you to see, the value of determination and developing your skills and what that can accomplish. So good to have you here, Woody.
Good to be here.
I think one thing we could probably start with is, you were involved in a lot of things as a young person growing up, and some of the skills that you had, you probably didn't realize could cross over to the film industry. So how did that happen? How did you go from carpentry and electronics and all these things to the film industry?
Well, it kind of started on a dare. A friend of mine, I was doing a project for him on his automobile, and he was a prop maker at Paramount Studios. And he mentioned, he says, with your knowledge of mechanics, electrical, and all the stuff that goes on, you'd make a great special effects guy. I said, okay, what's special effects? And he explained what was going on, and sounded real interesting to me. And so I said, well, okay, how do you get into special effects? He said, well, you got to be a prop maker. Well, okay, well, what's a prop maker? And so he explained that it's basically a carpenter. You build sets and stuff for the shows. So I went through the process, joined the union, went to work as a prop maker. It started out kind of intermittently, but after an experience with Lucille Ball where she and I didn't get along real well, I told her she could put it where the sun didn't shine. And as I was leaving the studios, I figured I would never work in the industry. She told me I'd never work in the industry again. And as I was leaving the studio, Jim Gutman, the foreman there, he stopped me and he says, "Come on into my office." And I thought, boy, I'm gonna get my tail chewed on here. So I go in the office, and a young man, he says, "Let me shake your hand." He says, You've done something that a lot of us would like to do, but are afraid to do because we don't want to be unemployed.
Mm-hmm.
And a fellow named Lee Vasquez, he was head of special effects at Paramount those days. He came in and he questioned, he says, "Is this the Woody I'm hearing about?" And I realized that what I had done was kind of had a resounding effect. So Lee said that, he says, if you run out of work for him, he said, I'll put him to work, which was where I wanted to go anyway, into special effects. So
That's awesome.
I worked a few more years as a carpenter, got to work over in special effects, got moved over there. and that that's kind of how I got into special effects.
Oh, that's good. So you got into the industry, and it looked like it was going to be a short term, but that's good. Someone saw the quality of your life and standing up for what was right, and so so now obviously you had worked in the studios obviously for many years, 20 years I guess, for Paramount in different
Off and
places.
on, yes.
But what was your first television job or film job, and what was that experience like?
The first film that I worked on was Paint Your Wagon.
Mm.
Lee Marvin and a bunch of those old guys.
Do you remember the year that was? It was in the 60s, right?
Oh, gosh, I don't remember. Yeah, that long time ago. That was, the foreman on that was a fellow named Wilbur Lamson. Wilbur and the guys that were working on that show were some of the fellows that built the original Disneyland. They worked at Disney Studios at that time. So I had an opportunity to work with some of the really skilled old timers. What I would do is go to them, tell them, I don't know a lot about what we're doing here, but I'll do the grunt work, all the dirty stuff, but you got to teach me something. And after they kind of put you through the ringer and decided that you were for real, they would take you off to the side and teach you things, which really helped me get through the first stages of being in the industry.
Yeah, that's great. So Paint Your Wagon, what was your job on that set?
I was a set maker, set construction, a prop maker. We built that entire set. That was shot up in Oregon. The entire set was built on the sound stages at Paramount Studios. And a lot of those pieces never were mated up until they were in Oregon. And to show you the kind of skill that Wilbur and those guys had, they put that entire set together with a handsaw and a couple of hammers and a level. They didn't have to do any modifications or anything. A tremendous amount of forethought and ability, knowing what the heck you're doing.
Right. Yeah, because they built it outside on a hillside, right? And
built it right out in the middle of nowhere. They put it together out in the middle of the boony weeds.
So, yeah, you got to do it simply. Apparently, you can't take a whole lot of things out there to build something.
You don't just turn around and go to the hardware store.
Yeah. That's awesome. 1960. This projector is from the 1960s, and it has a piece of 16 or 30, that's 35 millimeter film in there of an old Western. And so I was just thinking about that. That's about the time you were building that set for Paint Your Wagon. I don't know if that's Paint Your Wagon in there or not. Anyhow.
Some time ago.
Yeah, I got that downtown vista at a street fair. So you've worked with a lot of iconic figures like John Huston and Paul Newman. And
yes.
Could you share an anecdote of some of the experience you've had with these guys?
One of the most memorable, John Huston was a very unusual person. I was there, we were over in Arizona, just in Benson, just out of Tucson, out on location. And my wife came down to visit me. I stayed on set through the holidays. Some of the guys went home. I stayed there and worked. And my wife and brought my two young children over. And when they got out of the car, John Huston is, I think he's 6'4", or maybe even taller than that. He is a very tall person. And there's a glimmer in his eyes that you just don't see in every person. But anyway, the kids got out of the car, and my wife, John Huston, asked me, is that your son? I said, yeah. He walked over and he got down on one knee so that he was eye level with my son and introduced himself and carried on a conversation with him. And I was really impressed with that because so many people in that industry are all about themselves, and they have no regard for other people. I was fortunate to work with a lot of the white hats, a lot of the people that really care about the people around them. They're people. Carol Burnett and people like that are just a real pleasure to be around.
Yeah, and I think that's what helps to be successful on a long-term basis, right? These guys were in the industry for many, many years, and with that kind of attitude, you're going to be successful, right? And things are going to go the way you need them to go.
Like the old saying is, if you enjoy what you're doing, it's not work.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say I never worked a day of my life in the studios and enjoyed every one of them.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing about Woody that I know is that he's always learning. And every time you go down to his office, he's got some YouTube video on where he's learning a new skill. You think he would know it all by now, right? But I think that's life. Life is so rich, you're just never going to learn it all. And I think you have to realize, I think that keeps someone young too, just continue to learning, challenging.
Yeah, I just enjoyed learning and seeing how other people do things, their thought process. One of my biggest pleasures is watching young kids like Lauren's son. He's, 4 years old. And I just enjoy watching the way that they learn with their hands and their curiosity and the process of how they go about things.
The art of prop making is rich and it's challenging. And can you share a story about a real challenging moment while you were doing a project and how you overcame it?
Yeah. We used to, in the studios, the art directors would go to lunch and have 3 or 4 or more martinis. And then they'd come back with a wet bar napkin with a sketch scribbled on it and want to know, can you build this and how long will it take? And they came in, we were working on Mission Impossible at that time, but they came in with a drawing, a pretty nice drawing actually, of a device that would climb a cable and carry a man. The trick was, it had to be something that they could carry on their back to get there, then attach to the cable, climb aboard, and go up this cable. So we got some of the best minds came forward on that project, and we built one, and it worked. And they never shot it on the show. They didn't show that.
Do you still have that thing? I think we can use it at the studio here.
No.
Tell us about a set that you built that you're most proud of.
Oh, golly.
And why?
I think one of the ones that was the most challenging was for the show All of the President's Men. We had a crew. There was a crew that worked on what they call hot sets. That's a step that's either behind schedule or the prop makers came into a problem, something that was difficult for them to do, they couldn't accomplish. There was any number of things that made it a hot set. But we went from stage to stage and solved problems and then moved from there to another stage, and just we were always on the move. Everything, all of our tool chests and all of that were on wheels, and the laborers would move all of this stuff from one set to another. But we did All of the President's Men with no budget, and with no blueprints. We went to other stages and stole parts and pieces, brought them over, shot them. After they were shot, then we had to take them back, put them back where we found them.
Oh, man.
They didn't always get back where we found them. But that was the most challenging, I think, all around.
Explain what a prop actually is.
A prop is anything that's going to be shot by a camera. It could be anything from a table to the background that goes on, to a storefront. Prop makers build a storefront. On The Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, we shot that over in Arizona because of the background, because of the clouds in the sky and the beautiful sky. But the prop makers went in and built the facades on the front of all of the buildings. We built interiors. You see the facade at the front of a building, but the interior shots might have been done on a sound stage up in Tucson. Mm-hmm. And depending on your skills, you're ranked or employed by your ability to do certain things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you're doing finish work. Sometimes you're doing mill work, a little kind of mill work. But that's the enjoyable part about it, is you never know, when you go to work in the morning, you never know what the day is going to turn into.
Yeah, that's great.
And that's one of the enjoyable things.
Yeah. So, when you were doing these things like Paint Your Wagon and Life and Times of Judge Roy Bean, even Bonanza, some of these TV shows, it was a different time. There was no digital anything. So special effects were a lot different. Can you tell us something about maybe one of the special effects that you had to produce without any computers and digital information?
Oh, all kinds of things. Star Trek there was quite a bit of stuff. Like, for instance, the doors the sliding doors that open and closed on, I think it was on Star Trek on this, they would open and close. Well, that was 2 sliding doors on tracks, but it was rigged with pulleys and real fine cables and stuff, so that a person could stand off to the side and pull one handle and the doors would open. Pull another handle, the doors would go closed. And the trick, of course, is to open them and close them without going too far or too fast. And it all had to be done by hand. Now they do that with servo motors and little remote control buttons.
Yeah. A lot of behind-the-scenes people back in that day.
There was a lot of people behind and under counters and things like that. Yeah,
Hey, there's something that most people wouldn't know maybe is the fact that you used to work as a bouncer.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought it'd be fun to share about, without naming any names, but we'll say it was on the Bonanza set, where after hours, people would go to the bar and have a few drinks.
Well, it wasn't necessarily after hours. Sometimes it was during the day when we were shooting. There was a very large gentleman who would go down to, there was a little bar there at the back gate, called the back gate, there at Paramount Studios. And he would go down there and overindulge. And half of the time, he'd get in an argument with somebody or get upset about something, and had a tendency to destroy furniture. So every once in a while, we'd have a crew of 4 or 5 guys who'd go back down there and restore the interior of this little bar. But then there was 2 or 3 of us that pretty good-sized guys that were sent down to bring him home, bring him back. Sometimes that was a bit of a challenge too, but we always prevailed.
Yeah, and then he would apologize the next day, wouldn't he?
Oh, the next day he would come be just as humble as you can't believe. Just interesting, sad to see.
Yeah.
A guy with that much talent that could get off the rails once in a while.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's an interesting time where you work as a bouncer and as a set builder, and they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
At that place. That's funny.
In those days, I worked once in a while. I worked evenings as a bouncer at a bar, which my philosophy was always give everybody a gentleman's way out and
right.
Hope they take it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, working in the film industry, there's a lot of problem solving. You've shared a few, but how about another one where you had to come up with a certain solution to a problem?
Well, gosh, a lot of them.
What about that one in Tucson where you had some noise issues?
Whoa, that was a real deal. Shooting on location over in Tucson, they originally John Huston had a trailer on site, and he would stay there most of the time, especially if they were doing any shooting down there. He just stayed. A lot of people traveled back and forth to Tucson, but John and his girlfriend stayed on set, and they had the generators from the old World War II searchlights. They were a Chrysler engine with a generator and stuff, gas-powered. They weren't real reliable. Well, every once in a while, one of those, that would go down, that thing would go down, and the transportation guy, they'd send a driver into town, into Benson, and they could usually, if it was early enough in the evening, they could usually find me in the local beer joint having a cold one. Those guys come and got me and take me out and drive me out to the set, and I'd go through it and fix it up and get it running again. And one night I got it running. It was kind of late, and I hear somebody walk up behind me, and it was John Huston. Yeah. He says, "You a drinking man?" Well, I've been known to. He says, "Scotch?" I've been known to. He's good. And he takes the bottle of scotch, throws the lid over his shoulder, and says, "Have a drink." Well, we were still sitting around chatting and drinking when the sun came up and the crew showed up for work. So without much ado, I just put my tool belt on and went to work. And
yeah, that's priceless. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's no excuse for not being there to go to work.
Yeah.
But a long story short on that one, John asked me, he says, "How would you solve this problem?" I think I'd go into Tucson and rent a Caterpillar generator on a big skid-mounted guy. I'd bring that out and set it up, and that'd give me enough power to run everything on this entire set. The next morning, a flatbed shows up. The driver gets out and says, "Who's Woody?" I'm just a lowly prop maker.
Yeah.
But we set that up, and there was a lot of difficulty in subduing the sound from the combustion process in the diesel. The sound fellas, Glen Sound, they could still pick that thing up. So we buried a couple of 55-gallon drums, and we built a little shed and hung some carpeting up and just tried all sorts of things. So we finally got it down to where it was livable.
That was great. That's awesome. So you've witnessed a lot of changes in the industry. Is there an innovation that really stands out that you would consider a game changer?
Yes, LED lights. The light that they get off of the LEDs, of course, is you can modulate it, do a lot of different things with it. Back in the day when I was working to light up a set, they used carbon arc. It's a carbon rod and a lot of electricity, big heavy cables, And there had to be a man on every one of them, at least one man, sometimes two men on them. And they gave off a lot of smoke and stuff, and these big, heavy lights and stuff. Now they have these little boxes that put out so much light that it's unbelievable. And it runs on almost no power. The little power cords that go to them just, it amazes me when I see some of this.
Yeah,
this
like
stuff.
lamp cord.
Yeah. That's not the way they used to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, kept you in shape, I guess. You know, those guys had to be some burly fellas, right?
That and the size of the cameras. They can do things with a small camera that it took a giant mechanism, and it took two people to make it go, to make it run. Quite a process.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, goes to show you that you can just do production with a lot less people today than you had back then. I can imagine the hundreds of people on a set, a guy opening and closing doors, a guy just lighting lights and moving cables, and my goodness. After all these years in the industry, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be a prop maker in the industry?
Well, the art of prop making has just all but gone away. So much is done with computers now. Plus, they shoot what they call as is, where is. They'll use a background that's already there. They don't build it from scratch. We used to build stuff out of plaster Paris and hang it from the ceiling with chains and all sorts of things. But now they can do all these things with a computer. So if somebody's going to get into the industry now, if you want to be on the creative side of it, computers, you have to have an above average ability with computers. The programs do so much work. There's programs that have been written out there that just do all sorts of things. It's like when I learned to do drafting of the T-square stuff when I was in school, when I was a kid. That was back in 58, 59. And now a simple CAD program, a free simple CAD program, you can draw the lines and move things around, manipulate it, change it. There's almost nothing that you can't do with the computers. So,
well, aside of the computer work or the hammer in your hand, I mean, if you're going to be in the industry and working with, very, very successful, talented people, what kind of human traits that you've learned goes a long way on set?
The biggest thing is, like I say, it's a people thing now, learning how to get along with people, be creative, have to have a little creative. But if you can learn the skills that are necessary to do what you have to do, and by that I mean, if you're going to be a set maker, but there's still a need for carpenters, for prop makers in the studios or on the stages. There'll always be some need there, but learn a little bit about the drafting side of it. Learn a little bit about what is behind what you have to do. Lauren is a wonderful person to work with. I'm an interpreter. I interpret what she has in her mind. She does drawings, and she explains what she wants. The biggest challenge in an industry like this, especially this industry, is getting the picture that you have in your mind into my mind. That has to be done with verbal communication, with drawings. You have to learn to speak and interpret one another's language. So that's probably the most difficult thing. And I think it not only applies to this industry, but to so many other industries.
Looking at this big picture, all these things, I gathering that the reason you were so valuable on set is because your willingness and ability to jump in wherever the need was.
Yes.
Whether they needed you for, helping out, as a bouncer at the bar, or whether they needed you to find a solution for the audio guys, you were there. And I think that seems to have made you indispensable to some of these folks they recognized that and would take the time to spend time with you, like John. And
I had a little plaque in my toolbox, in the lid of my toolbox. I have one down at my shop here at the studio. It says, "Ain't nothing we can't do."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We means I get a little help from
man upstairs.
Upstairs, yes.
That's great.
I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I just, with a little help, I'm able to accomplish things.
Isn't that neat? That's great stuff, Woody. Well, what would you change in your life if you had an opportunity to change anything?
I don't think I would change anything. I've had a lot of good. I've had some bad. But I'm a firm believer that I'm where I'm at in this life because of where I've been and the things that I've done, the people that I've known, the experiences that I've had, good, bad, and indifferent. They all contribute to getting a person where they are. It's just kind of a matter of understanding a little bit of that. I don't understand how it all works. All I know is that it's like a sailboat. They go from one point to another, waypoints. And you have waypoints in your life. And that's what determines who and what you are, is your experiences, the things, and how you've handled them, and how you've dealt with other people. That all comes back to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and, I thank God for your life. You've taught me so many things about just stewarding things, and, we bump heads a lot on different things, but
that's half the fun.
Yeah, but you have taught me a lot about how to take care of things and appreciate things, and so I really appreciate that. And thanks for coming on today. And
well, thank you for having me.
There's a lot more stories I know in there, but perhaps we'll do this again. You can tell some more stories. Story Time with Woody, Part 2. If you want to find out where Woody is and what he's doing, the best thing to do is just hang out at the Film Hub, and you'll find him popping in every once in a while with his truck with something in the back. For more information on the Film Hub, follow us on your favorite social media platform at the Film Hub Inc., and visit us on our website at thefilmhubinc.com. Until next time,